Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Too Much with Jeremy A. Rodriguez. He is I and I am him. And today I want to talk to you about UFC 258. It was a fantastic bout in which Kamaru Usman defended his belt against Gilbert Durinho Burns. And from the get-go when this fight was announced, I felt it was a fantastic matchup. Even though Gilbert's last few fights were against Tyron Woodley and Damian Maia, definitely fighters that are on the back end of their careers. He performed valiantly, finishing Damian Maia with a lovely check hook, and then just obviously beating Woodley from pillar to post. So even though his resume didn't stack up with maybe some of the other top contenders such as Leon Edwards or Colby Covington, he for sure looked like a top tier contender. So a very exciting matchup. Knew from the get-go he was going to have some really quick hands and want to bring it to his old teammate, Kamaru Usman. So right off the bat, gotta love that Gilbert went straight in, cut across the cage, and tried to immediately push forward on Usman. And they, no feeling out period whatsoever. Gilbert essentially immediately came out throwing wild, heavy, dangerous punches to establish a pace on Kamaru that would have him moving backwards. And Kamaru, as we know, is someone who likes to move forward, likes to grab you, likes to control you any way he can and get you against the cage. That being said, excellent kickboxing skills, underrated kickboxing skills. Perhaps a bit slow, so we knew that Gilbert would have the speed advantage, and as did Colby when they fought, but you can always guarantee that Kamaru is going to come with that African power. And he sure did last night, or I guess 2 nights ago, depending on when I get to put this out. But in any case, Gilbert ended up flashing Kamaru pretty early with a awesome cross counter off of Kamaru's jab. And in regards to the jab, we'll get to that later. But Gilbert, over the top, right hand, right behind the ear, wobbles Usman, almost puts him to the mat, sprawls out, gets his hands on the mat, so it doesn't count as a takedown or a knockdown, I guess. But that's about as close to a knockdown as you're going to get. And he had him wobbly, had him hurt for sure. And in continuing that exchange, Gilbert, essentially smelling blood and trying to put him away, went for a wild head kick that ended up putting him on his own back. And you got to hand it to the champ. He controlled that time and space enough to keep Herb off of him. So controlling Gilbert's feet, kicking him right on the cheeks, coming over the top with some nice body punches. It was pretty slick, and not many people are going to be able to get away with that, especially with Gilbert being really active off his back, obviously like a world-class jiu-jitsu competitor. So the way he was going for up kicks, he was even posting off of his arm and trying to throw kicks up top. I mean, it definitely seems like it could be dangerous for anybody at any given point in time, though Kamaru didn't seem interested at all in going to Gilbert's guard, and who would blame him? But from there, Kamaru was certainly able to clear the cobwebs a bit, which was very, very shrewd on his part. And eventually, Gilbert got back up to his feet and seemed to reestablish his game, pushed Kamaru right back up against the cage. Not physically, but with his pressure and with quick hands, and just throwing pretty wild combinations. I mean, it sounds technically, but I suppose, not necessarily defensively, which played in later. So round 1 ends, and in the corner, it took a while to get to the corner because they're, postured up in each other's face. Kamaru actually goes for a glove touch, which he didn't do at the beginning, which was interesting, I guess to establish, what was going to take place during that fight. No more training partners, right? And in the corner, Trevor Whitman, brilliant as always, comes out and tells him, "You are a champion because of your jab," and conveys a lot of enthusiasm right to him, letting him know, hey man, you just tell him this is good, encouraging him. Obviously he knows what he's doing, but you also can't blame him for that encouragement because he seemingly took Gilbert's best shot there. I mean, it was a very clean shot right to the side of the head, dropped him, and touched Kamaru a couple times. Oh, and not to mention Gilbert's intercepting knees pretty clean too. He got Kamaru with a really good one to the chest, which if someone's trying to grab you up in the clinch or take you down, an intercepting knee will bust someone up. But anyway, Trevor Whitman gets his guy ready to go, and then round 2 comes out. Gilbert essentially sprints across the cage again, is right there in his face, putting pressure, but Kamaru much more composed this time around, and starts working his jab a lot more effectively, timing it much better, feinting. They're exchanging leg kicks, which, I personally feel like Gilbert was getting the best of, to be honest. Kamaru, amazing build and frame, but much more top-heavy than he is in his lower body. But, man, Kamaru started shifting stances as he's throwing his jabs, disguising his looks, his straight punches piercing right through Gilbert's guard, and eventually lands a shot reminiscent of the very same shot that Gilbert landed in the first round, which was a cross counter, almost same placement, everything, and that one sends Gilbert hands down to the mat. I believe that one was credited as a knockdown. I don't know, I'd have to check. I probably won't. But then Gilbert recomposes himself, and Kamaru takes his time, is picking his shots, still trying to lance the jab, and after surviving briefly off the cage, circles out, and Kamaru gets him again, drops him with a jab. And again, so you're going to hear me say that and straight punches a whole bunch because that's exactly what he did. He didn't need much more than that. Kamaru pretty much controlled the rest of that round. There was moments where Gilbert was clearly just in a defensive space and trying to regain his own composure, and which I feel like he did towards the latter end of the round, like the very third of the round at best. Maybe for the last minute looked like he was like there again and trying to work his own offense. But round ends, very clear round for Kamaru. And then round 3, and I mean, one-way traffic. Kamaru comes out and is not giving up space, is more controlling the center of the octagon. And, I haven't, full disclosure, I haven't rewatched the fight. I probably should. This is all from memory, so I'm probably misremembering some details. But, I mean, working the jab and then does a lovely shift step, like changing of stance jab to where his jab was now his right hand instead of his left hand, being that he's traditionally an orthodox fighter, but this time change stance, straight right hand, drops Gilbert, and man, I mean, that was pretty much all she wrote. I mean, he stood over him, and was just raining down shots, reminiscent of round 1, except with very little resistance from Gilbert on his back. Herb almost stopped it like 3 times, and then finally, Kamaru just, was tagging him enough to where Herb was like, nah, man, we're done. No more Herb memes after that. So, yeah, Kamaru closed the show, has finished 2 of his last 4 opponents, and indeed is a problem. I'm a problem! What? So, now, the champion has 13 wins in the UFC welterweight division, the 170-pound weight class in which George St. Pierre reigned for so long. And the record previous was George St. Pierre's 12 consecutive wins as a UFC welterweight. Of course, his winning streak was essentially all as a champion.
I'm not impressed by your performance.
So there's a bit of work there for Kamaru to do in that regard. But, you can't stop the comparisons now. Same weight class. Kamaru is certainly in the category where you have to start speaking about him as a potential all-time great, if not in just that weight class, but just in general. And it seems like every time there's a champion who's on a good streak, this is like the conversation where we go. And I guess that just speaks to the way the game has progressed now. But let's be honest, with any, you can't compare eras, but there's almost no doubt in my mind that there's a high likelihood that Kamaru would beat George up.
Pump the brakes, pump the brakes.
chill for a second, because to be clear, George is my pick for the GOAT. Just between his accomplishments, what he did for the sport, and what the way he did it, really. Fantastic competitor, just all around great guy, really, a true martial artist, and potentially alien, I don't know. But, you know, Kamaru more than likely would be able to control him, and if not hurt him pretty bad. You know, no disrespect to the man. Again, that's my GOAT right there, GSP. But you look at his record, and it's, you know, a great list of competitors. But a lot of these guys probably would have fought at lightweight. Maybe not during his streak, but you think back to Matt Hughes and BJ Penn. These are certainly men who were not fit to fight at 170 and wouldn't be competitive likely at the 170-pound weight class in this common era. So what Kamaru's been able to do in this weight class is certainly absolutely impressive. The top end of that division is incredibly dangerous, and hopefully the foot stomp memes can be put to rest, because the thing is, I get it. He's not charismatic. Not charismatic in the sense that we've become accustomed to. I mean, obviously McGregor changed the game.
Shut your mouth, mate.
And you have great, charismatic fighters who could really polarize the crowd, such as, Chael, etc. But Kamaru's never going to be that guy. And you hear him speak, and sometimes you can't tell whether he wants to be the good guy or the bad guy. He sounds somewhat schizophrenic when he's on the mic. He goes from telling us that he loves Gilbert and it sucked doing what he had to do, to just being like, everything you do can and will be held against you. Put some respect on my name. And certainly he's earned the respect.
I need to put some respect on my name.
But the man just doesn't have it when it comes to the mic. So I think he should go all in on just being the good guy and keep on letting us know that he's great. And that's the same way, I guess you would say, George went about it. I suppose another comparison on the other side of the coin would be Jon Jones. Jon Jones was given so much grief for being fake, kind of being a confusing type of character. And then finally, when he embraced the dark side, if you will, that's when everything changed for him. I mean, all of a sudden there's a room full of fans booing DC.
Boo me! I'm getting money and championship belts. What's up?
Instead of Jones, who is like the clear bad guy. I mean, like hit and runs, pregnant woman, drugs, you name it, whatever. But, people like what they like. I mean, obviously, MMA fans are toxic, but that's a story for another time, I suppose. But yeah, I think getting back to Kamaru, his greatness really can't be questioned to this point. His resume is great. He may potentially be fighting Jorge Masvidal again. There's rumors of them hosting The Ultimate Fighter together. I don't know how that'll do. I mean, really, I tend to lean towards finding a number one contender, make it more, more of a meritocracy in the sense that I want to see, these top guys fight each other to get some movement at the top ends of that division. Obviously Leon Edwards versus Hamza Chimaev is no longer happening, and that sucks because that was a very interesting fight. You get to see just how good Hamza is or may be, and potentially showcase Leon Edwards, or you create a brand new fresh contender with a lot of momentum behind him. But out the window. So now what? So Leon, what is he, top 3? You have Colby at 2, Gilbert at 1, Jorge somewhere 3, 4, something like that. Wonder Boy at 5. I mean, these guys have to fight. I mean, as much as I'd love to see Wonder Boy versus Leon, already having a loss to the champion, he needs to make an exclamation point kind of performance here to shoot his shot to get a rematch against the champ. So we'll see. You know, he wants to fight in March. Doesn't really seem to have any opponents lined up. Maybe Michael Chiesa will slide in from, you know, he's ranked number 6 now. That'd be my best guess. I don't know, former lightweight who's filled into 170 really well, just had a fight recently. So, of course, you know, we don't know what kind of shape he's in, you know, for weight cut wise for, you know, a month. But, you know, I think on the other side of the coin, the challenger, Gilbert, it was really sad to see him devastated in the middle of the cage like that. Obviously, like poured his heart into this whole thing and came out and made a show of it. I mean, you know, he really, you know, part of me wonders if that fight didn't get postponed, like when they originally, during the midst of the pandemic, had this fight scheduled. If it had happened then, maybe Gilbert puts him away there in the first round. Kamaru had only been working with Trevor Whitman for, you know, a few months at that point, I guess, like for like a serious like camp. And that's not a lot of time to make like groundbreaking like adjustments with a fighter. I mean, you go from working with Henry Hooft for so long, and then uprooting yourself, changing all your training partners, and then, you know, training with this other, you know, coach that really has like his own kind of like entirely different like proprietary culture and system, etc. You know, maybe I'm overblowing that, but you know, certainly their time together made a big difference on Saturday. So I can't help but wonder what could have been. But in any case, Gilbert, he'll be back. He's dangerous. Certainly was a bona fide number 1 contender. Might be, you know, outside of Colby, the hardest fight for Kamaru in that division for a while. I mean, you know, we'll see what the other grappling background fighters in the division end up being able to muster, because frankly, like if you can't keep Kamaru off of you, if you can't force a kickboxing fight, you're probably going to get dominated. And that's just, to this point in the UFC, facts. But, okay, back to Gilbert. Gilbert, ton of fun matchups open up for him now. Him versus Jorge would be a fun fight. Fast hands. They're both training out of Florida, you know, so there's that local, regional heat there. I think that would be a fantastic fight, bounce back for both of them. Probably not next for Jorge. Jorge, I mean, obviously, if he wanted the Colby fight, that fight would probably be happening. So I don't know. Now they're talking about Jorge versus Usman, as I said, for Ultimate Fighter. So who freaking knows? I just want to see some movement in that division. And I'm sure many of you do too. I mean, all 2 of you will actually see this video. But in any case, again, this is Jeremy. Would love to chat more MMA with you. And yeah, catch you on the next one, hopefully. Peace.